sends her back 3 times asking how does she want to cook?
Go out there and apologize to them.
I don't want to apologize.
Look at that. You must have hundreds of portions of stock.
Bad food usually comes from overcooked dishes, cheap ingredients, or inexperienced staff, but these restaurants were a total disaster. They didn't just serve awful food, their kitchens hid even bigger horrors.
Oh my God. You are kidding me. Chicken, freezer burnt. Oh man, look at this. This must be 5 years old, this stuff.
But after all that, you won't believe what these owners are up to now.
Goodbye, catering. Hello, restaurant.
First up, we have Laura, who opened Mama Rita's, a Mexican-American restaurant with the dream of honoring her grandmother by naming the restaurant after her. With years of experience in catering, she believed she had what it took to run a successful restaurant. But reality hit hard, and things didn't go as planned.
The debt that I've accrued with this business is astronomical. I'm on the foreclosure list, so there's a chance I could lose the house.
Yeah, she was drowning in debt, all while convincing herself that she was a great boss and that her employees adored her. But the truth was far from it.
I need a cocktail now.
Laura, as a restaurant owner, is inexperienced.
Mama Rita's had a solid start, packed for the first few weeks. But before long, the place was crashing and burning, with barely any customers walking through the door.
When she opened this restaurant, the first week, really busy. After 2-3 weeks, no more.
At first, Chef Ramsay was impressed by the warm welcome and the restaurant's well-kept interiors. But as the saying goes, looks can be deceiving. While the staff put on a friendly front, the head waiter clearly wasn't buying into the act.
Molotes, empanadas, de pollo.
And why would I stay away from them?
Just because I just think they're really dry.
Now, that was something you don't see every day. I've seen waiters recommend dishes, but this was the first time I saw someone straight up tell a customer not to order something. I mean, at that point, I really needed to know just how bad things were in that kitchen.
He said it's so dry, it's inedible. He said it's embarrassing.
Yeah, very dry.
The food was dry, bland, and completely lacking in flavor. But just when you think it couldn't get worse, wait till you see what happened next.
Are you cooking the chimneys?
I use the microwave for chimichangas for 1 minute before they fry.
Now, that's strange. A restaurant that was so particular about maintaining traditions was actually microwaving its food before serving. That seemed quite suspicious. It was very evident that Chef Ramsay did not like the food, but the head chef Perla had something else to say.
It tastes really good.
There's no doubt that Perla was seriously having a hard time adjusting with restaurant standards after being in the catering service, but wait, there's more. It's hard to believe how quickly the food was coming out, yet every single customer had the same complaint.
Kind of dry. I mean, it's not like I would come back.
No, I know, obviously.
And what made it even more suspicious? Perla and her team seemed way too calm and unnaturally fast at getting orders to the table. Something definitely wasn't right. Chef Ramsay did what he does best. He started investigating. And guess what he found?
Your chimichangas, are they frozen as well?
Yeah,
When was all this made?
2 months.
I wish I had that kind of confidence. 2 months? Are you kidding me? But it wasn't over yet. Chef Ramsay caught Perla red-handed, but Laura needed to see it for herself. And when she did, what she said will blow your mind.
This is what we did for catering.
Unbelievable. That may be why the place is struggling.
The drama was just getting started. Chef Ramsay headed straight for the freezers, and what he found was disgusting.
Oh, tortillas.
I hope everything's right in there. The shelving and all the food.
Oh my God.
Piles of frozen, processed food stacked on top of each other, yuck. Honestly, just imagining standing in the middle of all that rotting meat makes me want to puke. But now, it all makes sense. Mama Rita's was drowning in debt, and now you know why. But trust me, the nightmare wasn't over yet.
You must have hundreds of portions of stock.
Laura just wasn't having it. She kept defending herself, insisting.
I did well at catering with it.
You have driven away more customers than you could ever imagine.
Someone needed to break it to her. This wasn't catering anymore. This just kept getting worse when Chef Ramsay did this the next day.
Look at this shit. What's going on there? Ugh, they've gone green.
Was it just me, or did you guys see the mold on those strawberries? I mean, seriously, how did she even manage to run a catering business like this? Packaged food from 2 months fine, maybe a mishap, but what about this?
These are from last year. August and July.
Last year.
A year back? Now that's definitely not how you run a business. I did feel bad for Laura, but Perla needed to take more responsibility for this mess. Their friendship complicated things. Laura wasn't willing to hold Perla accountable.
I'm really nervous because I don't have idea for what I cook.
But at the end of the day, Laura was the owner and Perla was her employee first, not just her friend. That was really something, huh? Mama Rita's was just Laura living in the past, holding on to the glory days of her catering business. But in reality, she was headed straight for disaster, with all that frozen, moldy, expired food paving the way. Chef Ramsay decided to stay and help Laura out of this mess with Chef Naris's support, but Perla wasn't so excited about it.
Naris is here to help you, but she can't do everything. So show some spirit to try and get this place back up to where it should have opened 9 months ago, yeah?
The relaunch of Mama Rita's was a hectic process, but in the end, it was deemed a success. Chef Naris remained at the restaurant for 2 weeks, diligently training the staff to ensure smooth operations. During this time, everything seemed to be falling into place, especially with Perla shifting her focus entirely to catering and staying away from the kitchen. The menu that Chef Ramsay had carefully crafted and introduced was also proving to be a hit with customers, bringing in positive feedback and a renewed sense of hope for the restaurant's future. However, this period of success was short-lived. Laura ultimately decided to reinstate Perla as the head chef, believing it was the right choice for the restaurant. Along with this decision, she also reverted to the old menu, undoing the changes that had been made under Chef Ramsay's guidance. Unfortunately, these choices proved detrimental, and as a result, Mama Rita's struggled to maintain its footing. The restaurant could not recover from its setbacks and was forced to close its doors in December 2010. Despite this, Laura was never one to give up. While Mama Rita's and the legacy it carried was lost forever, she continued to push forward. She successfully maintained her catering business and even went on to manage another restaurant for a period of time. At present, she has ventured into a new business endeavor, marketing her own line of salsa, proving once again that she is determined to persevere no matter the challenges she faces. Speaking of challenges, this next owner was a pretty peculiar issue.
What the is this?
That's our menu. What do you think it is?
Get ready for Sal's Pizzeria because this place had some nasty stuff stored in their freezers.
Oh my god. This goes on. Endless. How much pasta's in here?
This restaurant was once a thriving business in the 90s, holding a strong legacy, until John's mother, Maria, sadly passed away from cancer. Given its history, you'd expect them to keep the success going, but strangely enough, the business was falling apart.
He was the only one in charge of everything, and as the years passed, it started to go down.
The employees weren't exactly thrilled with John's management style.
Now pay attention over here for a minute. Get in the kitchen. Really look at what's going on.
That reaction says it all. But just look at John, he didn't seem the least bit concerned. And trust me, that wasn't even the worst part.
He's got 4 kids that are always here running around the restaurant.
Was this a restaurant or a daycare center? Fair enough, but surely the manager had things under control, right?
This is the way we're gonna set up the table.
Listen, pull Maria Rosa, tell her to get down here. It's my restaurant.
Wow, that poor guy? If I were in his place, there's no way I'd stand there and take that. John didn't just need lessons on running a restaurant, he needed a serious reality check on how to treat people.
Am I gonna put on plastic glasses, get a funky haircut, put an earring in my ear just to accommodate the new people? I'm not gonna do that.
But hey, who are we to judge? We're really here for the main event. What exactly was lurking in that kitchen? Chef Ramsay enters, and before he does, he takes one look at the place, and this is what he saw.
Holes everywhere. That is not a good sign. Damn.
Now, that was one start. You won't believe why the boards were just hanging like that.
The owner, he actually cut the letters out.
Why?
I guess because it was tearing and he just completed the whole thing.
Chef Ramsay meets John and his staff, takes a seat, and gets ready to order. Now, we all know he has zero tolerance for anything less than fresh food, but what he didn't realize was that something even worse was about to happen.
I think that Chef Ramsay's gonna have a heart attack when he sees what goes on around here.
Now, that was suspicious. Why did the chef look so stressed? And why did he say that Chef Ramsay would have a heart attack if he knew? Knew what? Saw what? Something was definitely off. Things were just getting started when the waiter brought out desserts covered in mold for display. I mean, plenty of people walk into that place, and more importantly, there are kids already running around. Just imagine someone, especially a child, accidentally grabbing one of those cute little poisonous sweets. Oh no, the horror.
So we supposed to like put a fresh one every day so we can throw it out?
Are you kidding me?
Fast forward, Chef Ramsay gets his food, and no surprise, he's disappointed. But what did catch me off guard was what happened next.
The tortellini were frozen. I wasn't sure if they were frozen or not.
He's right.
All pasta's fresh frozen.
Wait, what do you mean, he's right? So you knew you were serving frozen food this whole time, and you still went ahead with it? The next dish comes, and guess what happened?
Fresh meatballs or frozen?
Frozen.
Oh, come on.
Why are they just acting so normal about the frozen food?
Every product we use in here is frozen. When I first started here, we cut up a leg of veal, and I'm still waiting to use it.
It was pretty obvious that the kitchen staff had had enough. They didn't seem the least bit surprised by what was happening. In fact, it almost felt like they wanted John to get caught for something major. It was as if they were just waiting for Chef Ramsay to finally knock some sense into him. When Chef Ramsay called the staff for feedbacks, this is what they had to say.
The meatballs, frozen, dry, solid.
Yes, they're disgusting. I don't eat them.
But you can't make meatballs every day.
John was acting like a stubborn little kid trying to defend every mistake he made. But the chef? Oh, he wasn't about to just sit back and let it slide. He came prepared and oh boy, he had a lot to say.
I'm embarrassed to do some of the things that we do here. Are you kidding me? We make pasta fresh and we freeze it. Like, are you crazy?
But why are you doing it?
I don't have a choice.
Chef Ramsay was doing everything he could to make John understand that his behavior was only hurting the restaurant and his business. But John just wasn't ready to listen. And what happened next? Oh, trust me, it's going to seriously annoy you.
I don't agree with you.
I think we should close the doors. I don't think this man actually gives a shit.
I didn't call you because I want to put the key to the door.
With all that happening in the background, Chef Ramsay continued his investigation while the kitchen prepped for dinner service. But when he walked up to the customers, what he found was unbelievable.
What's that?
I'm a vegetarian.
That was absolutely horrifying, and I've got to give respect to that lady for still sitting there. Because seriously, what was that? It's one thing not to serve fresh food, but serving meat to a vegetarian? I'm at a loss for words. But wait, there's more. Chef Ramsay stormed into the kitchen to find out how this even happened, and what the chef had to say will absolutely blow your mind.
And the tomato sauce, they put pork bones in it.
What the fuck?
What? Just when you think it couldn't get any worse, wait until you hear what John had to say.
It's the way we've always done our business.
But you can't serve a vegetarian a pork sauce.
Honestly, I can't help but worry about all the people who trusted this place and actually ate their food. If that's not pure disrespect and dishonesty in the business, I don't know what is. While all of this madness was unfolding, there was a poor man in the washroom, literally fighting for his life. And when you find out why, you're going to be absolutely furious.
The gentleman being sick in the bathroom.
Yeah, we have lobster, I have the mushroom.
The food had something in it that got that man sick, and guess what it was?
I can smell the ammonia.
Yeah, you smell that? And that's what that man's just eaten.
All of this happening, the worst was yet to come, until Chef Ramsay took a look inside the freezers.
It's frozen badly. No date, no name. Look at it. Oh, you're kidding me.
That was just revolting. And believe it or not, every single freezer was packed with frozen food. But hold on, it gets even worse.
This is a joke. Look at that. Oh, come on. Meatballs. This is ridiculous.
Frozen food everywhere, and most of it didn't even have dates on it. It was just sitting there for years. Fruits, vegetables, meat, pasta, all hoarded expired goods. As I watched this episode, one particular comment stood out to me. A viewer mentioned that John might have been the first owner they genuinely felt sorry for, not because he was a terrible person, but because he deeply missed his parents. While he was determined to make them proud and refused to give up, his overwhelming sadness and fear of failure seemed to weigh heavily on him. The emotions he struggled with were getting the best of him. To be honest, I agree with this sentiment to some extent. But it was just all too much these guys were stockpiling for an apocalypse that was never gonna happen, only to shove it all down their customers' throats. Honestly, it's a miracle that people who ate there were still standing. But this was beyond anything we've seen. It wasn't just frozen food being served, it was plated poison that could seriously put lives at risk. You might think that after everything the man would have given up, but this is where my respect for him truly comes in. He was struggling at the time, but he held on to his dream and his parents' legacy.
It's going to be extremely hard not to fall back into your old habits, but I'm ready to change my ways and move forward and not let that ever happen again.
Determined to turn things around, he got back on track, and Chef Ramsay was fully on board to help. Together, they revised the menu, relaunched the restaurant, and it thrived for years. That is, until 2023, when John decided it was time to retire and close both Sal's and Mama Maria's. But one thing is certain, he was a man who never gave up. Today, Mama Maria's has been transformed into a pediatric clinic. But now, let's head to the next restaurant located in LaGrange, Illinois, which was owned by a charming older couple, Terry and Carol Gilmer. And well, this is where the charm ends.
If this was your restaurant, would you be freezing everything, portioning it, and then dropping in bowls of water to defrost it to recook it?
For Terry, Cafe 36 wasn't just a business venture, it was a lifelong dream, one that Carol wholeheartedly supported. She stood by his side through every challenge, helping him turn his vision into reality.
I really love my husband, want his dream to come true, that's all.
However, despite their dedication, the restaurant was facing a serious problem: empty seats. With 85 vacant chairs staring back at them, it was painfully obvious that hardly any food was making its way out to the customers' tables.
Carol and I have never taken a paycheck since we started the business.
Business was slow, and the dream they had worked so hard to build was slipping away. They had gone all in, cashing out their savings, selling every car they owned, and investing a staggering $1.1 million to get the business off the ground. But despite their sacrifices, they were now struggling just to pay themselves a livable wage. One of the key figures in this story was Pinto, the head chef. Terry was very fond of him, but the rest of the staff had a very different perspective.
Pinto's sanitation skills aren't the greatest. He tastes a lot of his food as he's making it.
Pinto's questionable kitchen hygiene practices were shocking, yet what made the situation even worse was the unwavering confidence he had in the food he was serving.
The food is tasty, it's good, and it's done right.
As the problems in the restaurant continued to mount, the staff reached a unanimous conclusion. The main reason Cafe 36 was failing was Pinto and his unsanitary, saliva-covered dishes. And honestly, I have to say, I completely agree. Despite their frustrations, the entire staff had no choice but to play along, nodding and pretending to listen without judgment whenever Pinto spoke. But behind the scenes, the restaurant was drowning in financial trouble, and the future of Cafe 36 looked increasingly bleak. Chef Ramsay was welcomed, and Terry was really hoping he would love the food, but I don't think the waiter shared that same hope.
I know not to order the crepes because they were frozen. Frozen crepes are crap.
Even though he eventually went with the so-called special but not so special crepe, it was clear he didn't like it. But that was just the beginning.
Way too salty. The rice is mushy.
Okay.
Just telling you what he's saying.
That's fine. It was good. It was really good.
It was his confidence that got me. Like, how can you be so delusionally clueless? You just served something awful, and yet you're still standing there defending it. We already knew the crap was going to be frozen, but what you didn't know was this.
Who makes the crepes? I believe the crepes are store-bought. Yeah.
All this was just the start of a big frozen horror movie when Chef Ramsay inspected the kitchen and found out this.
You've got the balls to walk in here on a Thursday and serve that shit from a week ago. It's mush.
For someone who supposedly trained in Italy and worked with Italians, I seriously doubt he actually did. Because if there's one thing we know about Italians, it's that they never compromise on their food. But Pinto wasn't the type to back down, he just kept defending himself.
It was in the reach-in cooler.
A reach-in cooler confirms in your mind that it's fresh.
The staff was completely over it, but for Terry, it was even more heartbreaking. This was his restaurant, his dream. But just wait until you find out, the risotto wasn't the only thing that was frozen. There was more.
We're keeping clams from a week ago. Smell that. What does it smell of?
That doesn't smell good.
This guy was so ignorant, he actually thought he could just run away from the mess he created like he was some kind of world-class chef. The next day, during dinner service, Chef Ramsay continued his inspection, and honestly, what he found felt like a complete nightmare to me.
Looks like oil out of my car engine. Unbelievable.
Everything was frozen and just sitting there. Some of it had been lying around for days, stuffed inside boxes and wrapped in foil. The kind of food being served could actually send someone to the hospital, but of course, that's not what our dear Pinto had to say.
What's all this stuff floating in water?
That's a grouper taken out from the freezer. We keep it fresh frozen.
Did you guys hear that, or was it just me? Fresh frozen, what does that even mean? How is food that's been wrapped up and sitting in the freezer for days considered fresh? Chef Ramsay was just not having it, but then Pinto decided to pull this move.
It's a salmon, chef.
Frozen?
It was a fresh frozen. We keep it frozen, fresh frozen. It tastes more fresh.
I'm just as speechless as you guys. But one thing was certain, this place didn't just need saving. It needed saving from Pinto.
Seriously is taking this lovely couple for a ride, and it's got to stop.
At the end of the day, a restaurant can have the best location, the nicest owners, and even a big investment behind it. But if the kitchen is a disaster, none of that matters. Cafe 36 was drowning, not because of bad luck, but because of stubbornness, denial, and a chef who refused to take responsibility. And until that changed, no amount of fresh or fresh frozen food was gonna fix it. Now, you guys, something did happen.
Relaunch night was the last night Pinto worked at Cafe 36. He left the very next day.
It is said that after leaving, he found employment with a family in the same neighborhood. With Pinto no longer at the restaurant, Barney was promoted to head chef. However, his tenure was brief, as he eventually left to return to culinary school and complete his degree. To fill the vacancy, the restaurant appointed Chef Jorge Flores as his replacement. Despite the frequent changes in leadership, the restaurant chose to continue using the menu that Chef Ramsay had thoughtfully revised and designed for them. However, the damage had already been done. The restaurant had struggled for too long, and the setbacks proved too significant to overcome. As a result, Cafe 36 was forced to shut down just a few months after the episode aired. As of 2023, the location has been taken over by a Mexican restaurant called Empanadas, which has since built a strong reputation, receiving positive reviews from customers. But here comes a restaurant which serves defrosted food. But guess what was the bigger issue? The owner himself. His arrogance and the way he treated his staff and customers were just as cold and lifeless as the food being served.
So it sucks.
I'm talking about Sabatielos, owned by Sammy Settembre in Stamford, Connecticut. This man had dreamed of owning a restaurant since he was a kid, but the moment he achieved it, he started throwing all his efforts down the drain. At that moment, the restaurant wasn't going to last a year, and he had no one to blame but himself.
If you think of something else to complain about, please get me. I'll be downstairs.
He can be really nasty.
Sammy wasn't just rude to his staff, he was rude to the customers who dared to give feedback on the food they paid for. Now that's what I call audacity.
Calamari, to be honest with you, it was edible. That was about it.
Thank God you have a microphone with you. I don't want everybody to hear it.
Everyone was fed up with Sammy's never-ending theatrics, constantly trying to prove he was the boss. Even his girlfriend had lost hope.
I think that if Sammy doesn't change, I don't think it would make it another year.
The moment Chef Ramsay walked in, he wasn't impressed with how Sammy was running things.
And how long have you been here, David?
3 years.
3 years. Wow.
Did you put his order in? Did you put his order in so you can...
I'm talking to him.
I just want to make sure you take care of him.
But before making any judgments, he decided to observe. Then came the real test, when Chef Ramsay ordered their so-called star dishes. And you won't believe what happened next.
That's the wedding soup?
That's to get him in the mood to get married.
Jesus, I'd rather get divorced.
That one had me crying with laughter. Back to where we left off, the wedding soup. Normally, soups are made fresh when ordered, but that wasn't the case at Sabatielos. But wait, there's more. Just wait until you see this.
How can it be soup of the day when it's soup of yesterday?
Soup was 2 days old, but that doesn't mean it's garbage. You know what I'm saying? What is he, health department critic?
What did he just say? I get that you're pissed, but this was on you, not him. And let's be real, Chef Ramsay was absolutely right. Who in their right mind would want to eat a bland meat soup that was cooked yesterday? And just when you thought Sammy was just arrogant, turns out he was a liar too. Watch what he did with his so-called homemade lasagna that Chef Ramsay ordered.
Make sure the lasagna's nice and hot, Manny. I told him it's my homemade lasagna, my signature item, okay? Do the right thing.
Now, that was just bad character right there, grabbing frozen lasagna and serving it to customers while calling it homemade. Seriously? Who even let this guy run a restaurant? Sammy just sent out the defrosted microwave lasagna to the table, but come on, we all know Chef Ramsay. No one gets past him when it comes to spotting bad food. But what happened next? That's gonna blow your mind.
If that is homemade, I'll dance in this restaurant tonight, start bollard naked. Because that is not homemade.
He immediately called out that it wasn't homemade, but the worst part? That was yet to come. Wait until see what happened when Chef Ramsay got into the beef.
That's the ground beef.
That's beef. It looks like canned dog food.
But through all of this, Sammy kept his head high, acting like an arrogant punk when asked if the lasagnas were actually homemade. And trust me, his reaction is going to piss you off.
And where you put ground beef on what was the...
Because it's Italian lasagna, it's not a goddamn Chinese lasagna.
Did that piss you off? Because it sure pissed me off. I have no idea how his team managed to hold it together with a boss acting this irresponsibly. But if you thought that was the worst of it, just wait until you see what Chef Ramsay found when he stepped into the kitchen.
How old is that?
That's the lasagna I made the last week of Friday.
Last Friday? I don't even know if they had a clue what they were doing, but just watch what happened next.
So it's not fresh, that's what I'm trying to say.
That doesn't mean it's bad. Does it mean it's bad?
Yeah, okay, Mr. Smarty Pants. Frozen food isn't always bad, sure. But do you know what frozen food is? Ice cream. And even that has an expiration date. I have no idea what made him think it was okay to argue and defend his nonsense, knowing fully well he was in the wrong. But what happened next was an absolute showcase of his so-called standards.
Does any chef throw food away if it's not bad? Answer that, Mr. Ramsay.
So first he messes things up, then he defends his mistakes. And when he's called out, he throws out words that make absolutely no sense. If you thought that was the worst of it, think again. Because there was more.
I dropped down on the steaks because my business has dropped. It was a choice steak. It's not my Black Angus, you're right.
I love the way you got excuses for everything.
Who was going to tell him that Chef Ramsay was actually right and that he seriously needed to get a grip? This guy once had a dream, but he was flushing it straight down the drain with his cold, rude attitude and even colder food. Now that one, I seriously doubt this guy could ever come to his senses and fix things, especially with a character like that. The sad part? He treated his customers so rudely right in front of everyone. And for so many reasons, it was painfully clear he was not the boss he claimed to be.
Do you work for a microwave company? You know so much about a microwave.
Sammy was trying to run his restaurant like he was in some gangster video game, but what he completely lacked was a sense of responsibility and work ethic. Serving frozen, bland food to customers was bad enough, but what was even worse? He knew it was wrong, and still had zero intention of changing. Sabatiello's wasn't just a failing restaurant, it was a disgraceful mess. Sammy's arrogance, lack of responsibility, and complete disregard for his staff and customers made this one of the worst experiences on Kitchen Nightmares. After the episode aired, Sammy expressed mixed feelings about his experience on the show. In interviews with the local press, he admitted that he wasn't sure if he would participate again. He claimed that he had lost money during the filming and was not compensated for the income lost while the restaurant was temporarily closed. Additionally, he mentioned that the restaurant did not receive expensive equipment as part of the makeover. Despite the exposure from Kitchen Nightmares, Sabatiello's ultimately closed its doors in October 2008. Before shutting down, a sign outside the restaurant promoted the episode, boldly declaring it as celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay's favorite Italian in Fairfield County. In December 2008, Sammy attempted a fresh start by opening Sabatiello Gourmet Pizza in Greenwich. However, the venture was short-lived, as the restaurant closed due to unpaid rent. His troubles didn't end there. Sammy was later arrested for vandalizing his own restaurant and unauthorized use of credit cards. For several years, he worked as a chef in New York at the Appalachian Market, a gas station known for serving food, with pizza as one of its specialties. In 2019, Sammy purchased E. Italia on the Hudson, a restaurant he hoped to turn into a success. Unfortunately, the establishment received increasingly negative reviews under his management and closed in 2022. As of recent reports, Sammy has returned to working as a chef at the Appalachian Market, where he continues to serve sandwiches, pizza, and other food items. Well, I know there have been some truly shocking transformations, but which one takes the crown? Make sure you tell me about it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more crazy restaurant breakdowns and so much more. Still hungry for more? Check out my next video right here. Trust me, you do not want to miss this one.
Why wouldn't you buy fresh shrimp?
Simply don't have the time to go to the market.